बॉस उस दिन मेरी बहुत लंबी दिन है,
पर बीकेसी में ना वो
उस दिन मेरा बहुत लंबा दिन है. So
हम सबका है.
MCA में ना.
no, we have 2 meetings here, but we are live. So right now, let's talk
Yes.
about the gorgeous looking markets.
Yes. Heading to 24,000. You think?
First, okay. Before we get there, like, subscribe. If you give 20 likes or 25 likes,
You start
whatever, we
taking
can
the
take questions. So today we have our banking.
And today we have a banking editor with us.
So
Who's going to give us what's happening in Kotak
fundamental yarn
Mahindra.
behind all of this. But yeah, it's because of banks that we've had a good move and it's continuing. You know, we spoke about this on air, I think last Friday or something on Thursday, that the texture of the market for the past 5 days was so good that in technical terms, every candle of the hour on Wednesday or Thursday was better than the previous candle, and then a big nice trending day, and then we had 2 or 3 of such, and then Thursday and Friday we had FI buying coming in a meaningful way, and today's action smacks of FI buying. Banks don't move 2.2% on retail buying, as powerful as retail is, and I love retail, I'm a retailer, but banks move, Bank Nifty moves 2.2% on FI
See,
buying.
HDFC moves only
On FI buying. Kotak moves on FI buying per se.
Yes.
So therefore,
So in the we're looking at the contribution of the top 5 contributors. 4 are from banking with HDFC on top, and RIL is only one which is.
this is
And
love.
RIL,
But the beauty, Sajeet, is that mid caps and small caps are participating.
Yes.
It is not that the large boys are taking the action, the mid caps are not.
Yeah.
The mid caps are also participating, which is actually a really good sign.
1.2%.
So 6 day on a trot. And by the way, guys, just for record's sake, last week's performance of the mid cap and the small cap index. The mid cap index best performance since I think April 2020, and the small cap index best performance since June 2020. Best performance in like 4 or 5 years that these guys have put up, a weekly performance. So,
but mid cap and small cap have been hammered also to that extent.
So
वो थोड़ा सा portfolio reject हो रहा है और
वापस glass half empty, glass half full देखो ना.
हाँ fully की बात कर रहा हूँ मैं, मतलब in the sense आप percentage को compare कर रहे हो on a lower base वाले में, but मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि
but sir वो lower base कोविड के base के तो काफी ऊपर है. मैं वो बोल रहा हूँ और फिर भी परसेंटेज गए.
So 5 साल तो हो गए.
5 साल हो गए. Yes. Fifth 5 साल
5th anniversary.
By the way, trivia, the stock that has gained the most from that time till this time, याद है? पता है?
अब कितना परसेंटेज बताओ?
Who would have thought a metal stock, some 22,000 or some shit like that, right?
10,000%.
10,000%. Who would have thought a metal stock?
10,000%.
Crazy gains. But anyways, the story today is banks. Vijay?
Yes. Kotak.
But banks at large too.
When you're talking about glass half full, glass half empty, I'm thinking about प्यास पूछती है कि नहीं. That is all that matters. आप जैसे you see however you want to see. Fact is that sectorally things have not really changed than say last week. Of course, last week the big story was IndusInd, and that had a bearing on the broader private banking space. Abhi clarity has emerged that this is most likely limited to one bank and that the broader sector is fine. Then Kotak last, I think on Saturday, they put out a notification that they've appointed a new CTO. Last CTO left, I think, about 2 months ago, Milind Naglur.
Just before the approval, no?
Just before the regulator cleared their restrictions. तो उसके बाद now your new CTOs come in. Kotak tried something, a couple of years ago, I think 2 or 3 years ago, where they started bringing in people from consumer brands, Flipkart, Amazon types, and because they are so used to building technology for the average user, the attempt was that they will transform the way banks approach consumer-facing technology, like apps or websites or whatever.
The user interface, basically.
Yeah. So user interface is one part of it. The other part is also backend, right? Because for banks that is more important. And they have to ensure that the backend is strong enough to deal with the massive flow of data that comes in through the bank tech. Kotak tried this thing. I don't know how you can measure the success of this approach, whether this has actually worked for them or not, because for a huge part of that, after that, the bank could not do anything technologically. Unko RBI ne pura block kar rakha tha. Now finally...
and we were discussing this as well. When a consumer tech guy comes into a banking space, the purpose is to disrupt it and, open it up so that it becomes easier for consumer to come in. But in the bank and financial sector, you have so much of guardrails which is coming from the Reserve Bank of India. That the data flow which should be able to, they should be able to mine it and use it is not allowed.
In fact, this is one of the problems that we discovered when we were reporting on the Kotak Mahindra Bank story was this, that a lot of people, because obviously if you bring in seniors, they'll bring in people with them.
Yes.
Right? A lot of the people at the bank at that point in time were just not ready for the kind of regulatory supervision and the regulatory oversight that happens on a bank. And hopefully now they've figured it out and things are back to normal.
But आपको लगता है कि ये move CTO की वजह से
हो सकता है
ये मूव सीटीओ की वजह से सीटीओ एक वो है
रीजन है
Reason.
प्लस एफआई बाई है
करेक्ट
एफआई बाई तो है
क्योंकि Kotak is back in the market, that much is that has been clear for at least for the last 4 weeks I think, since the RBI removed the
back in the
restrictions.
market मतलब
They were not able to issue credit cards. They were also not able to take on customers digitally. तो वो अब कर सकते हैं. For the last 4 weeks they've been able to do. And now they'd be aggressively chasing that business because this guy Bhavnesh Latte, was taking over as CTO, was also in charge of customer experience at the bank initially. So he comes with that sort of understanding of how the customers look at digital banking.
And viewers, just for reference sake, and Vishy will obviously know more here, maybe Sajeet would know more, but until maybe 2017, 18, what have you, some year, okay, Kotak used to be amongst the best performing banks, also because it's in perception, you don't know when they will demerge or whatsoever, but they've got individual lines of businesses which are very good and large, and the sum of parts could be actually better than the whole that is there right now.
Yeah.
So the longest time the story was at some point of time, capital markets business will be separated, and then the wealth business could be separated, and therefore all of that will result in value unlocking.
Well,
the
expectation is that will happen sooner than later because under this new CEO, they have to start showing value now, right? He's been there for a little over a year now. Jan 24, he took over. Now is the time when people are like, अच्छा ठीक है, अभी तुम्हारा तो restrictions भी हट गया. Where is the growth? Right?
Honeymoon period खत्म हो गया.
Yeah, now you have to deliver. And the fact is that Ashok Vaswani's big claim to fame is the fact that he turned around Barclays, which was a 300-year-old bank. He turned it around into a consumer bank in the UK and other parts of the world. That's his biggest claim to fame. He was the CEO in the interim, then went back to dealing with technology, then took over at Kotak. So the expectation at that point was that he will turn around technology. And therefore, because he came in, so the hope was that, Kotak, if there is a tech issue, then probably he's the best place to resolve it. Let's see, it's time to put the pedal to the metal. Let's see what happens in March when the numbers come out. April mein aayega numbers.
Do they come out with quarterly?
Yeah, they will come out with at least initial estimates, which will come on the first or second, and then proper results.
That's going to be interesting to watch,
For Kotak?
Not just for Kotak, but for all the banks, banks, and especially IndusInd, to see the kind of quality of disclosure they're going to make in
IndusInd though.
So see, they've had deposit issues for sure, right? That is why you had the RBI come out with a clarification saying that, listen, don't need to push out deposits. Also the reason why they've gone to the certificate of deposit market, just for our viewers, certificate of deposits is essentially a deposit, but it's out in, there's a market out there where you can go and pitch for the deposit and somebody gives you that money. For a certain period of time, 6 months, 1 year, whatever, and you have to pay a higher rate of interest. As a bank, you have to pay those depositors a higher rate of interest. So CD market mein, IndusInd has been very active since the disclosures came on 10th of March, and they've raised a lot of money, which is important because it proves that for their daily activity, they still need to go out to the market and raise money. It pushes up your cost of deposits, so it hurts your margins. It also shows that the bank has to actively keep generating short-term money because long-term deposits are not probably
or they're getting moving out to other banks for because of this.
वो mostly overnight रहता है.
Overnight, हाँ. तो वो भी है. Anyways, we need 25 likes before we start the Q&A, and the two stocks that we need to discuss. One is Jio Financial and Zomato. Nifty में आ रहा है. Thursday will be the last Thursday end of trade is when the entire change happens. So you're going to see a big move happening in these two काउंटर्स और एटलीस्ट बाइंग, सो इंडेक्स फंड तो खरीदेंगे थर्सडे को, ताकि फ्राइडे से वो इंडेक्स में रहे.
Yeah, but usually it's not been a great ride necessarily for a stock coming into Nifty, or bad ride necessarily for something going out of the Nifty.
BPCL in Britannia, which is going out.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's, anyways, it's a factor to watch. Because, by doing that, I think the weight of the financials is in the Nifty is going to go up again.
Yeah.
So that's something which is interesting to watch कि कैसे वो play out करेगा. And Jio is still to prove the kind of plan or our business model. It's in the trying to put everything
Correct.
together, but it's not
Conceptual at this point.
Conceptual है इस समय. So
But I think HDFC Bank वाले numbers भी बहुत important रहेंगे.
हाँ.
ICICI डालता नहीं है. They don't release their unaudited indicative numbers. They don't put out. But HDFC Bank does, and we'll have to see how they end the year. Whether that deposit growth has truly picked up or not. They had a high, then a low. Now the hope is that they've covered whatever gap they have.
Friday trade जो 7,000 crores का FPI numbers है, if you look at the breakup, 8,000 crores का turnover हुआ था सिर्फ ICICI बैंक में, जिसमें 6,500 crores का odd delivery हुआ था. So
sounds slightly
80% delivery था उसमें.
Really?
Yes. उसमें
The highest delivery based buying seen in ICICI Bank for a long
time.
Are you sure of the numbers?
Yes, I'm damn sure about the numbers.
Wow.
So most of the money which came from the FPI went into ICICI Bank, and even today it's up. But today I think Kotak की बारी है and HDFC की बारी है. But वो है. So I was also not believing that number. So I went back to the NSE site to see कि Friday को कैसे था. तो they had 8,000 odd crores का turnover and 80% का कोई plus का वो था उनका delivery percentage. So it's almost 6,000 plus which is coming in.
They're also heavily owned by FPIs, both.
Yes, I think that's one thing which is there. So
Interesting.
But versus देखो तो IT का क्या होगा?
यार थक गया अभी IT की बात करते एक क्वेश्चन लेते हैं चलो. We've spoken about IT for so long. Let's just try and take these questions now.
Ganathan.
Bull bears a mountain. Oh yeah, Mr. Sekon is saying timely information in a delightful manner. Thank you so much. We love the fact that you're saying this. What's the next question? I'm not on my specs. Can you take the next question?
Love the series, somebody saying.
Love the series. Yes. RBL IDFC First Bank.
नहीं if ये है ना पहले.
हाँ तो इसमें
since the rally is so sharp.
We absolutely love this series. PS, we miss her.
Sorry guys,
don't be harsh on her. My question is, since the rally is so sharp, is there still room for a major dip so that we can invest in cash compound?
I'll tell you, it can happen any single point of time. आज हमने we should drop that Ramdev interview. We spoke to Ramdev and asked him the same thing. That is this a new run started or are you skeptical? He said, who knows, Niraj? And that's the truth. Nobody knows. Very sharp one-way rally. If you want though, and the other thing that we should drop is Dr. C.K. Narayan's column. So Dr. C.K. Narayan over the weekend has written this column on NDTV Profit website.
Yes. Beautiful column.
Beautiful column. He says that bhai abhi chinta mat karo, buy a dip. The stop loss that you keep is at 22,500 or thereabouts. But the upsides are on, and until April 22nd is when the major other turn might happen from a time series perspective. So tab tak theek hai. So can a dip happen? Sure, can happen. But is this the time to be scared? No, I think the market is telling you that it wants to rally. So try and be on the long side. I mean, don't be on the short side. Let's put it that way. If you don't,
if you look at the F&O numbers also, which is today build up हो रहा है, 24,000 में call build up हो रहा है, और 23,500 में put है. That means that
which is what we are saying now is runway to 24,000.
So that's one of the reasons why we are saying it.
Sir, हमने सोच के टॉपिक दिया था.
बिल्कुल सर. सर तुसी ग्रेट हो.
तोफू कबूल करो. Next.
RBL is IDFC Bank first. Vishy, बताइए RBL.
So see, if you are going to look at these two banks, they've both been hurt by the microfinance mess that happened in the sector, right? So RBL को आप देखो तो they bought long ago. They bought a microfinance company, and ever since they bought it, whenever there's a microfinance issue, first ones to get hit is RBL. And that has not changed even today. So what we need to see is whether वो कहीं if they start showing signs of turnaround. Yes, Q4 में I will watch out for that. The other thing is their credit card portfolio. Bajaj Finserv के साथ they split up, right? So no new cards have been issued in that business, and that was a significant chunk of the business of their credit card portfolio. Now they've been trying to build a similar business with other partners, and I think they have some 4 or 5 partners. Hopefully they'll wrap up that business soon, but yeah, number of cards issued will come down because Bajaj is out of the equation now. Whether they will be able to cover that gap, how big is the gap and how long will it continue? Important to note and important to watch out for in management commentary. IDFC First ka, sir, I have no idea what to expect from IDFC First Bank. See, one thing, I don't know how you want to see this, but one thing that they did in the last quarterly results was they stopped adding microfinance in their asset quality disclosures, which to me seemed like, it is your business, no? It's happening in the bank. So, jo bhi ho raha hai, you have to account for the losses. As far as the other sectors are concerned, they're actually doing well. They
have good exposure to SME, no?
And they have a SME that is coming from the capital first days.
वो कैसे चल रहा है? वो ठीक चल रहा है?
उनके SME में इतना बड़ा problem नहीं है. Their biggest issue outside of microfinance was roads. Because when the Maharashtra government had decided to, in Mumbai,
the toll wala,
they were badly hit at that point in time. The toll managers were all hit, and IDFC First had exposures to those companies. Since then, things have improved. Hopefully that continues in this quarter, but will be interesting to watch what is the kind of growth commentary they're giving, because the growth commentary had muted a little bit. Microfinance slow हो गया था, credit card slow हो गया था, unsecured in general slow हो गया था. Are they able to turn it around and ensure that secured book grows faster? Secured में the benefit is with larger banks always, because they have the reach, they have the recall value. Customers tend to go to these larger banks when it comes to the
Niraj, do you think that the top 4 or 5 is something where everyone is flocking? This second rung and third rung of banks, इनमें institutional appetite अभी आएगा?
देखो, I would love to know how you think, because ये सब आप ही से सीखा है, लेकिन
अच्छा मेरे से सीखा है,
starting of the career, right? But I would suspect that FIs will first go for the larger sheep, and it's not that they are expensive and the others are damn cheap.
Correct.
I think these are also reasonably priced. So, abhi to FI paisa, right now stick with the leaders.
Top 4.
Right now, why bother so much about valuation gaps? That will come when the sector gets saturated, and then suddenly think, अच्छा banking में जाना है, लेकिन large caps बहुत महंगे हो गए, अच्छा चलो अभी valuation देखो. फिलहाल तो भैया, I mean, I don't know, Kotak कितना 5 साल से यही भाव पे होगा, शायद 100 रुपए ऊपर होगा. So
अभी जो रन अप हुआ है उसके वजह बाद हो रहा है, राइट?
हाँ, मतलब मोटा-मोटे, I don't have the exact numbers in hand.
But I think they've come out of that entire uncertain phase, right?
Correct.
Change in leadership, RBI issues and everything which has
life has changed for Kotak.
Life has changed for Kotak. Okay. Anyway, Devansh Kumar is love your show with Ed Yardeni and Harsh interview with Mass Financial. Thank you so much, Devansh Kumar. What's stopping Zaggle stock growth now? All numbers look good. Any thoughts, Sajeet?
Yeah, we've been Harsh has been talking about it last
Zaggle,
and he's of the view that they have a couple of tie-ups and they are doing well. Good growth which is coming in for that now for the sector as well, and they've given a good guidance as well. So that's what from an operational point of view. Yes, pricing point of view, we will have to check the valuation part of it, whether it's overvalued or not. But from an operation point of view, the management has given a good guidance for the future. So that's one thing which he said.
Okay.
और क्या है?
Today we had a great guidance from MTAR Technologies. Very strong number. हाँ, बहुत अच्छा interview दिया, बहुत अच्छा commentary दिया for the future. So in fact, maybe that's an interview that we can drop as well. But you can try and look at that interview.
You should look at the
promising
Nifty
commentary.
India Defense Index.
Oh, it surged. Yeah.
It's surged, but it's gone up 25% since Jan.
The last question. Wow. Yeah, so suddenly it's come back in vogue. After having a dismal 2024,
yes, and it's
starting to come back again.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
So there's a question that has come. It says, how do you find the prospects of mid-cap PSU banks like Indian Bank, Bank of India, Union Bank? Is this sector good for value hunting? Thanks for this daily conversation. Okay. I want to stay away from the valuation question, but I do want to
फंडामेंटली
fundamentally मैं बताता हूँ
हम
क्या
भी
हो रहा है.
वैल्यूएशन उतना नहीं बोलते, बता देते हैं वैल्यूएशन कितना है बट उसके आगे नहीं जाते.
So I was reading a report. I think Motilal Oswal ने डाला था last week, where they were talking about the fact that there's limited scope for re-rating in public sector banks, and that they don't want to go below SBI at all. And below SBI, is the rest of the world. So if you're going to stick to that, then stick to that. But mid-cap banks may see. They had a period of turnaround, right? After 2022, after your COVID pressures, everything ended, and then PSU banks had a nice, pickup in terms of performance, turnaround, asset quality-wise, सब बहुत improvement हुआ. So now they're sitting on a reasonably decent base. So the next question then is, okay, when does growth pick up? Because you've addressed all your issues. Now you have to start growing. I don't know if you saw a story in Economic Times. I hope my viewers are able to see that. But there's a story in Economic Times today which talks about credit card NPAs. PSU banks account for most of the credit card NPAs currently in the country, and credit card NPAs have risen marginally. It was about 2% or 2.2% हुआ है. But that 0.2% increase is purely because of public sector banks. They are the ones who are contributing maximum to it. The question then arises, because all public sector banks always say, okay, we only give these credit cards to
our customers
or people who are in the government sector, people who are in the army, or some very high quality private sector companies. If they are unable to, even if a few of them are unable to repay their debt on time, then that points to the question, where is the consumption economy, right? Private banks are not reporting that bad a number in terms of asset quality on unsecured portfolios. Then you
but they have curbed the issuance of.
They have curbed the issuance, exactly. So therefore, did you go too fast in trying to grow your business? Maybe you didn't do your checks adequately, or maybe your customer selection is not that great, right? In the first place, you're probably going to the customers who are being rejected by the private sector. Which is a business model, but then you have to account for the higher losses and thereby earn a higher return on those loans. Are you able to do that? Margins picture says no. As far as public sector bank margins are concerned, they're not doing that well. They're pretty much exactly where they were. Plus, public sector banks come with a large MCLR book. Just for the reference, in 2019, the RBI brought in the concept of external benchmark
lending,
right? Which basically most loans were linked to the repo rate. And if the repo rate goes up, your loan rate goes up. Repo rate goes down, your loan rate goes down. But before that, there was a regime called the MCLR, the marginal cost based lending rate, which accounts for all the operational costs that a bank has to face, which includes cost of funds, cost of operations, cost of lending, everything. Sara ka sara cost mila ke, then a blended cost is arrived at on which your loan is priced. That MCLR takes time to go up or down, depending on where the
because it's an average of all the rates, basically.
Yes. So by the time a rate cut happens, which happened at RBI, right, February mein, by the time that rate cut is passed on to the average customer, it's already like 8 to 10 months before your customers get the benefit of it.
Yeah.
So public sector banks have the benefit there because they can still price their loans higher than the private sector peers, because there they would have lent mostly on the MCLR, on the EBLR, external benchmark linked rate. तो इनके पास वो margin protection के लिए है, but alongside that your deposit cost also therefore goes up slower, which means that private banks can reprice the deposit faster than you, and therefore your margin impact shows up much later than them. So what seems like okay now may not seem okay, say 2 or 3 quarters down the line. So have to watch out for that, have to really see how these guys are able to manage their costs, how they're able to deliver on the margins. Growth question, they have a real growth problem. They need to start delivering.
So one thing for sure, card companies going to have a big tough time in this fourth quarter because of the kind of delinquencies that
we have seen SBI
cards ka hua hai.
The expectation is SBI cards will turn a corner now because their recognition part is over. So now is the growth.
But
and a rate cut cycle, cards business.
And do you see this year to be the year of fundraising for many of the PSU
already आ गए market में. UCO Bank has already come with the QIP in the market.
Bank of Maharashtra का भी है.
Bank of Maharashtra, but I don't think Bank of Maharashtra is going to make it because it's already within the last week of March, and market conditions were not so great till last week. So not appropriate for them to come out to the market, but maybe things will change now and hopefully that will happen.
Okay.
एक BSE का क्वेश्चन है ना
BSE NSE है private equity conference. I'm
आप
on
थे ना
leave
उसमें?
tomorrow and day after, but on Thursday I'll come and talk about this because I'll make some pointers and come. So on Thursday we'll talk about the private equity conference. We have time for one last question, which is on BSE. Why is getting it such hype? Sajeet, 60 seconds.
Simple. BSE is the only one which is listed, right? So you have that capital markets.
But NSE में private market liquidity अच्छी है तो फिर
उतना नहीं है.
नहीं है
See, the liquidity है, ऐसी बात नहीं है, and demand भी है. But by the way, from today onwards, I think the ISIN has been activated for NSE, so transfer shares will be much more easier for you. पहले ISIN को suspend किया था, so there were 2 stages of approval which you required because as per SEBI's norm, there has to be fit and proper condition for anyone.
30 more seconds.
But BSE में you have freely, shares can be freely traded, and it's a smaller exchange from a turnover point of view as compared to NSE, and so the market thinks that the growth prospects are much better or higher than NSE. That's the only thing which is there. But both the exchanges have been hit by the recent FNO, and I think if you look at BSE, they've been able to do a better job of premium turnover, which is there. You're counting? Yes, that's the only thing which is there.
मुझे लगा 15 में बंद हो गया चालू रहा
एक मिनट बोला दिया था
मैंने 30 seconds बोला था बाद में 30 पे काउंट डाउन बंद किया मैंने we need to wrap today. We need to wrap today. So thank you so much everybody for tuning in from Vishy, Sajeet and me.
We leave you with Sensex above 1.2% and Nifty Bank 2%.
Yeah, really strong showing. Anyways, see you guys tomorrow. Have a good remainder of the day.